This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop, life. Hello, loyal listener of the Inkpulp podcast. This is a quick bump. My man Alan, who produces this show, who without him, this show doesn't exist. It never would have existed. The old podcast, all versions of it, none of it would have happened. It was an idea I had. Alan was a student of mine at the time, and he said we can make that happen. So, I want you to do me a favor and go check this thing out. Alan is done. He has created and is releasing a young adult horror graphic novel in the tradition of Tomb of Dracula and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's on Amazon. I'm going to pop the link below. Click it, check it out, get yourself a copy, show love, show support. Thank you. Welcome to the Inkpulp podcast. I'm your host, Sean Crystal. Today we've got another inking demonstration with a voiceover. It was a creation that I came up with in my crazy head called M.O.D.O.K.POOL. If you're a fan of M.O.D.O.K. and Deadpool, this is awesome. It was for a publisher, Panini, who publishes Marvel Comics in Europe. And they do a giant slipcase edition of all the Deadpool stuff. And on the slipcase, they want art from all the Deadpool artists. And they asked me to come up with something involving Deadpool and other characters. So, M.O.D.O.K.POOL. Hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy my teachings, my instruction, my information, please click the link down in the comments and check out Inkpulp Instruction. It is a website, a business that can help you become a better artist. There's episodes you can purchase and watch and learn from involving me and a bunch of other amazing comic book artists. There's a free lesson waiting for you if you just click the link, and I think at the very top it says get your free lesson. Anyways, check that out. Follow me across all social media at Inkpulp, Inkpulp, and enjoy another information episode of the Inkpulp podcast. Peace. All right. Here we go today with my super sped up inking. So normally when I start inking, my brush is pretty wet, and if you know my work, you know I like a dry brush, so I find an area where I can be super wet and let the water in the brush kind of dry, and so that's what I was working on there. And as you can see now, it's getting pretty dry, and working on these little dry feathery marks. Those are really fun to make, and they're a good place to start. And the line I just drew with the jagged edge, that's sort of my attempt. When you see me doing that jagged edge, it's my attempt to create the illusion of a transition from light to dark in a fast capacity. Those feather strokes are a slower capacity, so a slower transition from dark to light. And those little jagged edges are a faster transition. So that's what those two different marks mean. So this is a little bit of a crazy creation. I was very proud of the idea and the execution of it. I'm a big fan of M.O.D.O.K. He's a super fun character to draw and a really creative, wild Kirby creation. So getting to do a M.O.D.O.K. Deadpool was certainly a fun thing. I initially did a few sketches of not Deadpool wearing a M.O.D.O.K. mask, but actual M.O.D.O.K. size with the Deadpool head holding a gun and blasting. But talking to the editor a bit, he liked the idea of this Deadpool mask, a M.O.D.O.K. mask, as if it were a Deadpool cosplay, which is cool. So You'll see my contour line work is very thick, versus the interior line work is much thinner, and I'm always kind of paying attention to that. That's the containment line I use. It's something that some artists use in a dramatic fashion, like I am, where there's a real bold contour line. Some use it a little more subtly. I remember I've had a conversation with Sean Murphy where he stopped using it. He felt it was damaging to the overall effect and look he was going for. And I remember like getting rid of it to see if my work would benefit from that, and it did not. I think my work is strongest with this nice contour line. Those hatch marks I'm making in the eye mask, you'll see right here I'm blacking around it. This is where I like the idea of light creeping into dark spaces. Since I've been painting, I've been really interested in seeing in the dark spaces. They're dark, and of course the contrast is very low, but it's very natural and interesting, I think, to see information in the dark areas. So that right there, if I were painting this, wouldn't be the lines. Remember, when I'm inking, I'm trying to create the illusion of a range of value. There's no range of value at all. It's a solid black tool, a brush with black ink, and I'm not watering down the ink at all. So I'm continually trying to create the illusion of a world of values through different marks I make, through flicks like the feathering, through jagged edges. It's all trying to describe form with value. So those marks I make in the mask are as if some light had crept into that black dark area. So if I was painting that, it wouldn't be lines. It would simply be a little bit of a lighter value. If I was using a purple, say, you would see a little bit of a lighter purple there, and that's where some light would creep in. And this also comes from really understanding surface planes, geometric planes, and anatomy, and the way light bounces around form and illuminates certain areas and dumps other areas into shadow. And again, when you're working in black and white, you got to get creative, and I like that about inking. I mean, you're creating a world of illusion. You're creating a world of values where value doesn't exist. So this piece I really enjoy this, so I try to find ways to do it, is do those flick marks. And in the little cosmic power thing on his head there, I was letting the brush strokes on the flicks show more. Like here, I'm doing the same thing. Whereas on his shoulder, I wanted the brush strokes to be smaller and seen less. And that again just comes back to value. And there I'm letting some light creep into the ledge of the chair where it meets the head, and that's what those hatch marks are. See, the hatch marks allow me to create I'm just trying to think what's the best way to explain it. An area where light creeps into dark, but not pure light, not intense light, but just where you can see some information within the dark. And those hatch marks really, they allow for that. You see me taking little breaks. As I'm recording these, sometimes I forget that I'm recording and I forget to hit stop, or someone calls or whatever. Just bear with me, it's quick. So all in all, my goal of this piece was to put your focus right into the face and the mask. So that's where, of course, all the detail is. And when I'm creating a composition, I do really consider that. How am I going to lead the eye to the focal point? And a few things you can do is create an area of high contrast, will help make the focal point pop out. Area of most intense color hues if you're working in color. You can use graphic design elements like if you look at the hatching on the shoulders and the directional movement of the hatching, they're pointing to his face. And that is, that's something Eric Canetti had taught me, was use your rendering wisely, use it to aid the composition so you're not pulling the eye away from where you want someone to look. So just the directions of the marks you're making can really be beneficial. And if you look at Eric's work, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And there on the legs there, I figure some light. I'm always thinking, like, where would light bounce? And how would it get into this dark area? And so it's not so graphic. I mean, there are artists whose work is purely graphic, like Mike Mignola, which is just black and white, and I love that. And I used to work that way, but the more I think I got into inking and eventually painting, I realized there was a world of value I wanted to explore while using a lot of black. So my pieces, like some artists, when I say gray, I'm going to introduce you to a term called optical gray. It's the illusion of gray. You're using a purely black tool to create the illusion of gray or the illusion of value, which is what I said earlier. So there are artists who work primarily gray, and that's not me. I work primarily black and with some white. But an example of someone who works primarily gray is like Bernie Wrightson's Frankenstein, where it's this rich world of value through little hatch marks, or Gary Gianni. I work more like Kevin Nolan with a lot of black, and there's rendering within the black. It's not quite a Mignola or Eduardo Risso graphic approach. It certainly has some graphic elements to it, but I don't work as gray as like a Gary Gianni. I don't work as purely black and white as a Eduardo Risso. Kevin Nolan was a huge influence on me and one of my favorite artists of all time. So if you're not familiar with his work, I highly recommend it. And I highly recommend getting the Batman Black and White Volume 1. It is a treasure trove of amazing stories and art, and a real celebration of this medium at its finest. So as I'm wrapping this up, that was generally my approach to this piece, and I hope at the end you see my focal point is right where the face is. And I like leaving some of those dry brush strokes just kind of sit there, where it's not necessary that the information be so descriptive. It can just be expressive, and that's something new for me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next week for the next episode. This is the Inkpulp podcast. This is the Inkpulp podcast. Comics, hip hop, life.